Hey everybody, good morning and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Devarim. Devarim is the first book, is the first Perashah, of the final book of the Torah. The final book we know is the fifth book. There are Chamisha Chumshe Torah. The fifth one is called the book of Devarim, which is also known in English as Deuteronomy, Mishneh Torah. It's a repetition. Moshe Rabbeinu in this book is repeating the words of the events that happened over the last 40 years. And the book begins with the words, Ele hadevarim asher diber Moshe. These are the words that Moshe now gives, he speaks to the Jewish people. And the word Ele is an interesting word. Ele, to begin a book with the word Ele, these. Why does the Torah begin this book of Devarim with the words Ele HaDevarim? A very interesting question. Question out of the question of the Or HaHayim HaKadosh. The Or HaHayim tells us something very powerful. We know that the date that this takes place, when is Moshe Rabbeinu giving over this speech? He starts, like we said yesterday, on the 11th month, on the first day, which is Rosh Chodesh Shevat. Now, if you do math quickly, if Moshe is giving this speech on Rosh Chodesh Shevat, the first day of Shevat, and he dies on the 7th of Adar, how many days from now till he dies? How many days are left? 36. It says the Or HaHayim, Ele HaDevarim, the word Ele, Aleph 1, Lamed 30, Hey 5, altogether 36. Moshe Rabbeinu is hinting with the words Ele that I'm going to give you now 36 days, 36, the number 36 days of rebuke. What's very interesting is that the Megillah that we read on Tisha B'Av, which always falls out in this time of the year, Megillat Echa, Aleph 1, Yud 10, 11, Chav 20, 31, and Hey 5, 36. So Megillat Echa is 36, and the word Ele of the book of Devarim is 36, and Moshe Rabbeinu is going to now rebuke them for the next 36 days. Now, as we pointed yesterday, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't start off by rebuking them explicitly. Moshe Rabbeinu first, he hints to them the mistakes that they have done, and this is the opening Rashi of the Perashah. Rashi says, on the words Ele HaDevarim, open it up quickly. Rashi says, Lefi shehen divrei tochachot, because Moshe is going to now rebuke them. Mana kan kol hamekomot. He starts enumerating all of the places she'echaisu lifnei hamakom bahen, that they angered God. And therefore Moshe hints them, only beremez, only in illusion. He doesn't say explicitly why. Mepenei kevodan shel Yisrael, because of the honor of the Jewish people. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu was so sensitive not to embarrass Am Yisrael, even as he's rebuking them. And think about how many things Moshe did in order to make sure to give the rebuke the right way, the right time. He only gives it at the end of his life. He doesn't give it in the beginning because he doesn't give it right away when it happens. Again, he's trying to hold off. He doesn't want to embarrass them. He doesn't give it to an individual. He gives it to the whole assembly together. Even though sometimes, by the way, it's an amazing lesson. Sometimes one of our children messes up. They do something wrong. Instead of telling them to their face, hey, why'd you go late? Why'd you embarrass? Why'd you yell? Why'd you hit your sister? Why'd you do that? A better way of rebuking would be to, on the Shabbat table, when everyone's sitting there, to talk to all of the kids together. This way, the son, the daughter, they don't feel attacked. When you're talking to one kid specifically, he's on the defensive. It's good advice as well with an employer. When there's employees, if you want to give a message, don't give it to the guy straight. Give it to everybody together. So look how many things Moshe does. He goes out of his way, all for one reason, and that is to spare the Jewish people from embarrassment. And Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, he has over here an amazing essay where he says, look how powerful it is to be careful not to embarrass somebody. He quotes the famous Gemara. He says, of course, we're not talking about only a group of people. Even one individual, bar minan, God forbid, embarrassing one individual could be so damaging and could be so costly. He turns us to the Gemara, of course, in this time of the year, Tisha B'Av. We know the famous Gemara. We'll study it one more time. Until we do it 101 times, you can't complain. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. You got to repeat it 101. Okay, so let's go. I think this is number 4 or 5. Either way, the Gemara tells us in Masechet Gitin, page 55. Here we go. Gemara says, Kamta ubar Kamta haruv Yerushalayim, that the city of Jerusalem was destroyed on account of Kamta and Bar Kamta. What does that mean? Gemara explains that Ahu Gavra, there was a certain man, his friend's name was Kamta, Ba'al Debabe, but his enemy was Bar Kamta. Okay? So imagine a Jew, he has one guy he loves, his name is Kamta, another guy that he hates, his name is Bar Kamta. Avad Se'udda, he made a party one day, not sure what it was for, if it was a, bar mitzvah or a wedding, doesn't say exactly, but he made a large feast. Maybe it was a revealing party. I don't know. Okay, either way, Amar le Sham'eh, he says to his shamosh, Zil aiti li Kamta, please go invite Kamta, my friend. Okay, they didn't have electronic invitations back then, so you had to send a messenger to go invite people. So he sends his friend to go invite Kamta. Azal aiti le Bar Kamta. He goes and he brings Bar Kamta. He brings by mistake the wrong guy. Not only the wrong guy, the worst guy, his enemy. Ata, the host comes, Ashkaheh, he finds Bar Kamta sitting and having a meal. Amar le, he says, what are you doing here? You're my enemy. Kum pok, get out of here. Amar le, now this guy, the enemy, Bar Kamta, he's going to get very embarrassed. Can you imagine getting kicked out of a party? Everyone's going to see you, make a scene. So he says, listen, Ho'il ve'atai, please, I'm here already. Shavkan, let me just sit. I promise. Yahavin alech deme ma te'achin ashtina. I'll pay you for my plate. Just don't embarrass me and kick me out. Amar le lo. He says to him, no. Amar le, Bar Kamta says, okay, Yahavin alech deme palga desuradach. I'll give you half the cost of the party. Amar le lo. He says, no. Amar le, Yahavin alech deme kule seudah. I'll pay you for the whole meal. Amar le lo, nakte beyadeh ve'ukmeh ve'apke. He took him, he threw him out. Amar Bar Kamta, having been thrown out of the party, he said to himself, Ho'il ve'havoyat v'rabanan ve'lamahubeh. Wow, look at this guy, threw me out of the party, and the rabbis were sitting there, and they didn't object. They didn't try to make shalom. If Aharon HaKohen was there, what would Aharon do? Listen, it's okay. Just let him stay. Don't embarrass him. This guy the rabbis didn't try to defend me. That's it. Shma minna. I see that the rabbis don't like me. Echol be kurza be malka. Let me go give them a taste of their own medicine. Azal amar lele kesar. He goes to the Caesar and he says, Mardu becha Yehudaeh. The Jews rebelled against you. Amar le mi emar. He says, how do you know? He says, what? Do a test and go see. He sends a korban, and on the way into the temple, this guy Bar Kamta was a sneaky guy, and he made a cut, a blemish on the upper half of the lip or the eyelid. But either way, he makes the korban no longer usable. So now the Caesar sends a gift to the temple to bring a sacrifice to the Lord, and the Jews receive it now on behalf of the Caesar, but they see it's a blemish. You can't bring a blemished animal. So now they're in a conundrum. What do? Do we bring it, even though we're not allowed, just to make the Caesar happy? Or do we put our foot down and say it's forbidden, it's forbidden? Eventually, they decided not to bring the korban. Of course, we look back in retrospect and we realize it was a very, very, very big mistake to not bring this animal as a sacrifice. So what happened? The Caesar finds out that the Jews didn't bring the korban, which only then confirms the accusations of Bar Kamta that the Jews no longer had allegiance to him, and he sends an army, and they come and eventually leads to the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. The story goes on and very interesting. If you want to read it at length, Masechet Gitin, page 56. But either way, the Gemara concludes over here and says, the Gemara says, I have to just fast forward all the way to the end. The Gemara tells us in conclusion, Amar Rabbi Azar, Bo ure kama gadol koha shel busha. After concluding the story, the Gemara says, look how powerful being embarrassed is. Shehare siyeya hakadosh baruch hu et bar kamta. After all, Hashem, now look what Hashem did. Hashem helped Bar Kamta veheriv et beto, to burn his own house and to destroy his own temple because this one man was embarrassed. The Beit HaMikdash, my friends, Beit HaMikdash neherav. You know why the temple was destroyed? Biglal Yahid, because one man who was embarrassed, God said, for that one man who's embarrassed, I gotta now help him out. He's a bad Jew. Shame on you. You're going to destroy the temple because of your own personal score that you want to settle with this host. But God didn't interfere. Hashem didn't stop him. Hashem helped this man have his way because he was a person who was hurt. He was embarrassed. And this man, by the way, what do you want to say about him? Probably the worst Jew in history. You're a rodef. You're a murderer. You destroyed people's lives. You destroyed the temple. Imagine you saw this Jew in the street. What would you do to him? Imagine you saw this one Jew who was responsible for the destruction of the temple. You kill him. We would all stone him to death. How dare you? You moser, you rat. But God said, rat or no rat, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, his feelings were hurt. And if he was embarrassed, God says, I gotta help him out. And Hashem allowed this man's plans of destroying the temple come to fruition because of the busha, because of the disgrace, of the shame that he endured. Says Rabbi Azar, Bo ure kama gadol koha shel busha. Look how important it is to be sensitive, not to embarrass people. The bottom line, you know why the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed? Because somebody's feelings were hurt. That's the lesson. We find this, says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, in many, many places. Take as an example, just the episode that we read a few weeks ago, the story of Balak and Bilam. Balak hires Bilam to come and curse the Jewish people. Again, another anti-Semite, another Rasha who deserved to get killed, and he's burning. And this man Bilam, on his way to cursing the Jewish people, my friends. He's coming to curse us. He has a conversation with his donkey. Okay? And the donkey starts rebuking him and telling him, why are you hitting me? Can't you see that God's on the road? It's not me. And he's giving him a whole speech. And Bilam, by the way, at the end of the story, apologizes to his donkey. Now imagine this donkey, if it was going for an auction, how much it would sell for? How much would you put down for this donkey? Billion? A talking donkey from the time of, by the way, this donkey was created in the twilight of creation. Friday afternoon. The Gemara says 10 things. We went through this in Pirkei Avot. I don't know if you remember. The Gemara says 10 things were created Friday afternoon in the twilight zone. And one of them was Pi Ha'aton, this donkey, the mouth of the donkey that spoke to Bilam. How much do you think this donkey is worth today? A lot of money. You know where the donkey is, by the way? It died. Not just it died, but Hashem killed it immediately after this episode that Bilam had with the conversation with that donkey. Hashem immediately killed the donkey. You know why? You know why? We tell you what our rabbis tell us. Our rabbis say, this is Rashi quoting the Midrash, Shelo yomru, people shouldn't say, Zo shesilka et Bilam betochachta. Look, guys, that's the donkey that opened its mouth to Bilam, and Bilam couldn't even answer back. The sorcerer, the wise guy who was able to curse the whole world with his mouth, he couldn't even answer back. He couldn't even defend against the donkey, even a hamor. Shehas hamakom al kavod haveriyot. Hashem killed the donkey so that people shouldn't point and say, look, that's the donkey that rebuked Bilam. in order to preserve the dignity of Bilam, not to be embarrassed, Hashem killed the donkey. Says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, do you understand what we're talking about over here? How much Kiddush Hashem would have been brought if the donkey was alive. Imagine how much inspiration people would have gained if they saw the donkey. Today, you see a small little, you see like a small little house where maybe Beethoven lived. Wow, Beethoven, psh, and you're all inspired. Forget Beethoven. Imagine you saw the donkey. How much inspiration? But Hashem killed the donkey because maybe somebody would point and say, oh wow, that's the donkey that gave it to Bilam. That's the donkey that roasted Bilam. And Hashem knew that Bilam would be embarrassed, and in order to preserve and to defend Bilam's embarrassment, Hashem killed that donkey. Rabotai, what are we talking about over here? We're talking about a tzaddik, a Jew. We're talking about an anti-Semite, a Rasha, a Bilam who tried killing us. And Hashem says, doesn't matter. People don't deserve to be embarrassed. No one, not even Bilam, even him, we have to be sensitive to his dignity, and Hashem kills the donkey. Just so that people shouldn't in the future maybe point and say, look at that donkey that gave it to Bilam. So we're talking about over here, Kamta and Bar Kamta, a Jew who was a Moser, who was a squealer. We're talking about a Rasha, an anti-Semite of Bilam. But God says, what does it matter? A human is a human, and we don't embarrass people. There's no right to ever embarrass somebody. Doesn't matter how wrong they are. The Gemara tells us in Masechet Berachot, another example, a beautiful story that took place on page 27 with Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel, who was the head of the Beit Din, was very tough. And the students, the people felt that it was time for him to be fired, if you could use that word. It's time for a new leader. Rabban Gamliel's way is not working. Too tough. He's yelling at everybody. So we got to hire somebody new. And the straw that broke the back, that pushed it over the edge, that decided, you know what, this is, enough is enough. What was the episode? The episode was, there was a student that came and said, tell me, Rabbi, arbit reshut or chova? Is arbit optional or a must? Well, when he asked Rabbi Yehoshua said, it's reshut. So he comes along, he says, Rabbi Gamliel, reshut or chova? Rabbi Gamliel says, chova, it's a must. He says, well, I heard there was somebody else that said it's optional. Well, Rabbi Gamliel said, well, let's see about that. The next day, Rabbi Gamliel got up and said, I think arbit is mandatory. Anyone argue on me? And no one said anything. And Rabbi Gamliel said, Rabbi Yehoshua, do you argue on me? I heard you argue on me. And Rabbi Yehoshua was obviously, confronted straight up by the rabbi, and he couldn't lie, he couldn't deny it. He says, yes, I said that. He says, stand up on your feet. And he made Rabbi Yehoshua stand up the entire class. Again, I don't want to get into the details and a lot of questions in the story, but he made him stand up the entire class, and the next class, and the next class, and the next class, and it was very, very difficult for the people to see Rabbi Yehoshua be so embarrassed, disgraced like this. And they decided, it's time to get rid of Rabban Gamliel. Who are we going to put in his stead? Who's going to be the next leader? Well, the best candidate was Rabbi Yehoshua, believe it or not. He was the next biggest rabbi in line. But they ended up not picking him. We know who they picked. Who did they pick instead of Rabbi Yehoshua? They picked that rabbi by the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. You know his name from the Haggadah. We say it. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Correct? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. He was the one that was picked. But why didn't they pick Rabbi Yehoshua? After all, like we said, he was the best candidate. He was the next biggest rabbi in line. You know what the answer is? Because the students knew that if they put in Rabbi Yehoshua, it would be a slap in the face to Rabban Gamliel. It's one thing that you fire Rabban Gamliel because of how he treated Rabbi Yehoshua, but to now put Rabbi Yehoshua in his stead, it would be too much of a disgrace to the honor of Rabban Gamliel, and so they forfeited having the best possible rabbi in order just to defend the dignity of Rabbi Gamliel. So again, just another example. And Rabotai, our literature is filled. Go back to Korah. Remember Korah who challenges Moshe Rabbeinu's authority? Moshe says, it's not me, it's Hashem. What do you want from me? And so Korah's like, well, I think you took it for yourself and you gave your brother and you're hoarding power. Moshe says, no problem. You think it's me? You think it's my brother picking it? Let's do a test. And they do the frying pan test. Remember the frying pan test? They each bring a frying pan and they see which one gets accepted. And of course, God tells Moshe to tell Elazar to come bring out the frying pans to see which one was picked, chosen. And what's interesting is that it's the Elazar who is picked to remove the frying pans. Not, who would you think would be better? Aharon. Shouldn't it be Aharon, the one to pick up the frying pans? But it's not Aharon. You know who it is? It's his son Elazar. Again, says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, sensitivity to the people who were there on Korah's side. The ones that were there siding with Korah. If Aharon's the one to go in and take out his frying pan and say, look, I win, it would be too much. It wouldn't be sensitive. It wouldn't be right for the person himself who's the opponent, for he himself to come out and to show you, look, I'm right, you're wrong. So Aharon runs away. He leaves the scene. He's not going to show them as they're getting, as they're losing. Look, yeah, I told you. What do you have to say now, huh? Aharon, that wasn't sensitive of him to do that. So Aharon's not there. Elazar brings out the frying pans. Unbelievable. Our rabbis tell us, Binfol oivecha al tismah. Don't be happy when your enemy is falling. That is the sensitivity that is demanded of us from our Torah. Just imagine there's somebody at the office that you're competing with, and there's only room for one more, and he's trying to box you out. He's making you look bad, and he's lying to the boss about you, telling the boss, listen, this guy, he's stealing money and he's taking time. And of course, we're talking about, I haven't done no such thing. And eventually the boss sides with you and he fires your competition. He fires the other salesman. And on the salesman's way out, you say, all right, man, good luck. Right? With a little extra smirk. That's not sensitive. The guy just got fired. Yes, he tried hurting you. Doesn't matter. To Bilam, we killed the donkey because it's not sensitive. The frying pans, Aharon, go away. It wouldn't be sensitive if they saw your face. You're the one that was chosen. They would feel extra bad. Not right to do that. And so the Torah, again, is just teaching us another example. And Rabotai, if I could just close for today's class with one beautiful story. The story is brought down over here in the Sefer Lekach Tov. The story is about the Rabbi of Brisk. The Rabbi of Brisk says that when he was, the story is told that when he was the rabbi of the town, it was right after World War I, and a lot of the Jews were escaping, and majority of the Jews who left, it created a big vacuum where unfortunately many of the religious institutions were taken over by not worthy people. So as an example, we know that every community has a shochet, a butcher who serves kosher meat. Well, with World War I, the kosher butchers left, or the worthy, religious, pious butchers left, and you had all of these scam shochatim coming and taking over. And of course, they were feeding the people not kosher meat and not kosher shechita, and they were cheating, and they were cutting corners when it came to checking the animal and the knife and everything. The Rabbi of Brisk decided that it was time to make an emergency meeting to speak to the town people, to the heads of the town, about the big issue that's going on. And he calls a meeting, and all of the main who's of the town are there, and they're sitting, and the rabbi is going to address them and explain that we got to get rid of these horrible scam shochatim. And all of a sudden, he calls this meeting, and one of the guys sitting there in the meeting, who walks in? One of these guys, one of these butchers, one of these phonies. And the rabbi, right before he's about to speak, he sees a guy walk in and sit down, and no one knew what the meeting was going to be about. So this guy walks in and he's sitting down. And all of a sudden the rabbi realizes that he can't do anything. What's he going to do? He's going to start talking about these group of people, and one of them is sitting in the class. So he just closes his eyes and he says nothing. He starts rocking back and forth. And the guy's like, Rabbi, bechavod, tfadal, speak. And Rabbi didn't do anything. He just closed his eyes and kept swaying back and forth. Finally, a few of the guys understood why the rabbi wasn't speaking. So they said, Rabbi, ask him to leave. We're all waiting. We got to get moving. We got to go to work. Tell the guy to leave. Should we tell him to leave? The rabbi says, Chaz v'shalom. Are you crazy? You're going to ask a guy to leave the meeting, embarrass him, kick him out? No way. If I have to, I'll cancel the meeting, but we're not going to ask anyone to leave. And the rabbi just sat there. Eventually, the guy on his own, he left, and the meeting was able to commence. But when they asked the rabbi, why'd you do that? Listen to what he said. The rabbi said, Masechet Gitin, page 55, the page that we just learned, says the Gemara, Bo'ureh, come and look, Kama gadol kohashel busha, how powerful, embarrassing someone can be. Because after all, Hashem helped this wicked Jew destroy the temple because he was embarrassed, because his feelings were hurt. If we would embarrass this one man, if we would mevayesh this shochet, this fake butcher, and kick him out of the house, we would have lost anything that we would have been trying to accomplish in this meeting. Me'asefa kazot, from such a meeting, nothing good can happen. Rabbi was willing to delay the meeting, keep feeding the people tarif, not to embarrass the one guy that was going to be there. So this is, I think, something very powerful. Of course, we are in the time of the year that we know that we are working on man to man. We're working on ben adam lachavero. After all, the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinat chinam. The Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because one man's feelings were hurt. And again, we're talking about not a big tzaddik, not an average Jew, a very bad Jew. We're talking about a very bad guy. But there's no right to ever embarrass somebody. And I think there's something could be applied to all of us, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our children. How many times we are yelling at our children and we embarrass them, whether it's in front of their friends or in front of their siblings or in front of their family members that are there or cousins that are there, and we yell at them. We could be yelling at our employees. We could be yelling at our housekeeper. It could be a waitress. It could be somebody who's doing service to us. How sensitive to never embarrass anybody. Rabotai, let us take upon ourselves. It's Tuesday. Let us work till Sunday night. Okay? 5 days. Don't embarrass. If there's anyone that you want to say something to, if there's anyone that deserves yelling, save it till Sunday night. Not this week. This week, Shavua Shechalbo, the week that the Tisha B'Av is going to fall out, Sunday, let's bite our tongue. Let's hold it in. Let us make sure, even if the person hurts us, Just not worth it. I want to yell at you. I got to get even with you. I got to get what's rightfully mine. Do it Sunday night. From now to Sunday night, don't embarrass anybody. Make that your personal goal. Make that your personal mission. From today to Sunday night, I won't hurt anyone's feelings. Only compliments. Only positivity. Only nice words. Only amazing dinner. Only great job. Only I'm so proud of you. Only thank you for coming. Only nice, positive things. Devarim. These are the words that we need to be speaking on these days. From now till Tisha B'Av. Nothing else should be coming out of our mouths. No criticism, no yelling, nothing that we're upset, no rebuke. I know things need to be said, Rabbi. People have to hear it. It's true. It's true. But hold off just for 5 days. For 5 days. Make it your mission that you will not embarrass anybody. That you will not roast anyone. Not even as a joke, not on a chat, not in person. This week, I'm going to be a positive person. I'm going to build. I'm going to inspire. I'm going to compliment. I'm going to praise. This week, we're going to have only good things coming out of our mouths. Not embarrassing. Guy in shul, he's a bad chazan. He makes a mistake. Come on, making mistakes. What are you doing? Nothing. None of that. You got to go pray at home. This week, go pray at home. If it means not embarrassing the guy in shul who's making mistakes, pray by yourself. Do whatever you need to do. But this week, for 5-6 days till Tisha B'Av, we are going to make it our mission for the next 6 days that anything that comes out of my mouth will only be building people, helping people, inspiring people, no embarrassments, being super sensitive to the feelings of the people around us. We should be zocher by working on ourselves one step at a time, one day at a time. This Tisha B'Av, Be'ezrat Hashem, will be a day of celebration, will be a day of reuniting, of rejoicing, building the Beit HaMikdash one brick at a time. B'mehera b'yameinu, amen. We'll stop over here, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And God willing, we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.